Morning guys. So I'm out here in my dyeing studio and I'm finally kind of putting some pieces together for today's dyeing schedule. We have a pediatrician appointment at 11 and right now it is just a little bit before 6:30, so I'm kind of getting a really early start. Today my goal is to dye a few sock sets for the upcoming shop update on Monday, which is the 4th of June. I'm going to be doing lemon and grenadine. I'm bringing that back for this next shop update. I'm doing summer drop cloth sock sets, and I'm also doing Vegas Golden Night colorway sock sets as well on a very limited quantity because I'm trying this as, it's like kind of like a concept colorway, I guess you could say. So right now I am kind of figuring out how I'm going to go about putting those colors together. Now it's a really simple color scheme, so I'm looking at like logo pictures and just pictures from various different Vegas Golden Knights games, and I mean the colors for the Vegas Golden Knights are black and gold, so I mean it's really not that difficult. There is like a gray element to it, and then their sweaters have a red stripe, but I don't know if I'm going to incorporate the red into the colorway. I'm not 100% sure. You can kind of see, I'm just going to show you my computer screen. You can kind of see what we got going on here. So there's like, you can see there's like a red stripe in their jersey. This is their primary logo. This logo here is all black and gold. This one has a little bit of this like gray up in the corner. Anyway, so it's kind of what I'm working on right now, and I'm having some coffee. Today is going to be quite a hustle, so I'm drinking it out of my hashtag hustle mug. So, all right, let's get started. Okay, so what I'm visualizing so far is kind of a half and half, two different colors with some speckling going on as well. So I'm going to be doing, their colors are gold and black, and there is some gray in there, but I'm going to actually not go with the gray because the gold and black are the big primary colors that you see in all their logos. So I'm thinking I'm going to do a half gold, half black micro stripe. With some, I'm gonna pull in those red colors, but with some like real light red speckles, maybe some black speckles as well, and see what that looks like. So again, this is like really small numbers here, really super small batch, because I want to just try it out and see how I like it, because it may change if I want to tweak something. I'm going to be doing this all on the gilded base, which is a gold stellina yarn. I actually have a skein of it right here, so you can kind of see if you look at this. I think that you might be able to see that gold stellina running through there. Let's see. Yeah, you can kind of see the sparkle in there. So that's what I'll be doing that on. So I have my pot set up right now. I've got two pots. This is going to be for the half and half dip. So I'm going to do half black, half gold. And then over here, I'm going to do some speckling of those other colors that I was mentioning. We're going to see how that works out. So I'm getting it all set up. I'm going to get my dye stock mixed right now, get it put in the pots, and then we can get started. I'm super excited about kind of what's happening right now. As you can see, they're split between two pots. My gold on this side, my black on this side. Now, the ratio of dye to water for the dye stock here is so that you get a pretty saturated coverage in there. And because I wanted the black to be black, but I guess I didn't want it to be so intense. I don't know. I was hoping that it would be a good solid black color, but not so much that that the yarn becomes a pain to work with, because I know that black can be kind of tough sometimes. But I don't even think that would be a factor here anyway, because we're going to be doing like a half and half micro stripe situation here. Now, this section right here is obviously not being dyed right now, but what I plan on doing is, as this exhausts here, and here, I'm going to kind of pull the yarn over here a little bit, pull the yarn over here a little bit, so you're going to have kind of a gradual divide between the two. And it would also, it's going to be good too, because it'll give me a nice pale portion of the yarn to do some speckling on, as well as on this side as well. Obviously this isn't going to have any speckles since it's going to be so dark, but yeah, I'm really loving kind of where we're going with this. Now this has to sit for a little while, and that's a lot of valuable time that I could be using. So I'm going to move this operation off to the side. I'm going to get started on some other colorways that I have to do today. But I'm really excited with where this is going, so I can't wait for it to kind of progress and to show you. You can see that the dye is, there's still pretty like concentrated amounts of black dye in there. And that's, you know, that's okay. It's gonna exhaust a little further, but I'm pretty sure that there's gonna be dye left over in the pot. So this is how Lucky Strikes are made. I take that leftover water, that dye stock that still has a lot of dye left in it, that didn't exhaust in this project. And number one, I take note of it in my formula so I know to use less dye in the future. But then I'll take that and I'll add a skein of yarn to it, and maybe mix it with another dye stock that was left over from another dyeing session, and create a Lucky Strike colorway. So it's kind of the beauty. You don't have to fret when you have dye stock left over. You don't have to just sit there and let the yarn try to soak up as much as possible, because it can only soak up so much, which could, you know, damage the yarn if you're just keeping it in hot water for so long with loads and loads of citric acid. I just don't do that. But it'll come up with a really cool one-of-a-kind colorway. So that will probably end up, if it doesn't fully exhaust, which I don't think it will, that will end up being a really pretty kind of like pale gray, maybe with some other tones in there, Lucky Strike. Alright, so you can see right here in this measuring cup, this is the dye stock that's kind of left over in the black portion of the Golden Nights colorway that I'm doing. Now, you know, it's actually kind of hard to see, but if I turn it so you can see it through the light, you can see that it's actually really pale. So that's great, because I prefer, you know, I kind of like it when my Lucky Strikes have a pale quality to them, just because I tend to dye lots of really saturated colorways, lots of real punchy, colorful colorways, I guess. And so the Lucky Strikes are kind of a break from that. And so whenever the dye stock is nice and pale like that, it really makes for a beautiful Lucky Strike colorway. I'm getting close to being finished with this, letting it exhaust to the point that I like. So that will probably be the dye stock that's left over. And then the gold is pretty much fully exhausted, so that won't have much of that left. If it does, if there's some left, I'm gonna mix them together, and that'll warm up that gray color a little bit, so we'll see. Okay, so here is what's going on with the gold dye stock. So you can see that that's really, really pale. Not a lot going on in here. This, if I were to put a skein of yarn in this dye stock, nothing would happen, nothing discernible, that's for sure, because the yarn itself already has kind of a yellowy tone to it, so this wouldn't really do anything. But just for the sake of experiment, I'll go ahead and mix in some of that leftover black dye stock, and we'll see what happens. Okay, so when we look down into that, you can see that it's still just kind of a gray, but it's a little bit warmer. you can definitely see the gold tones kind of going through when you look at it at an angle. Again, like this wouldn't do a whole lot to the yarn because it's almost, the water is almost free of dye. But we'll see when the whole process is done. We'll see what it looks like. I don't like sending any dye down any drain. So, I mean, looking at something like this, I always think that there's possibility in there. Plus, there's always more dye stock coming, you know, in my dyeing sessions. So, you know, this isn't going to be the only dye stock that I have for Lucky Strike. So we might have to like mix those to get kind of a cool color, but we'll see. So that's kind of what happens when you mix the leftover dye stock from the black portion of the Golden Nights color and from the golden portion. So pretty cool. All right, so let's go ahead and take a look at what the first small teeny tiny batch looks like of the Golden Nights colorway. I have it out just kind of sitting in some soak water right now before I speckle it. So here it is. All right, there it is. So you can see a really pretty gold on one side and that nice rich black. Now it's hard to see the gold stellina. Oh, actually, no, it's not. Look at that. Look at that sparkle, you guys. Oh my gosh, this color is gonna be amazing. I'm loving it so far. I don't think I'm gonna have to tweak too much. Okay, so now